Everyone already knows what is associated with Little St. James. The names, the allegations, the court filings, all of that has been discussed many times. Today, we're not going to retell the case, and we're not going to add new details. Today, you're going to see for yourself how this island was actually set up, what the space looked like where everything took place, how the buildings, rooms, distances, isolation, and access control were organized. This video is not about speculation, it's about the place itself, and how private real estate can be designed in a way that keeps what happens inside out of sight. Let's start at the beginning. Little St. James is a private island in the Caribbean, separated from major tourist routes and nearby communities. That immediately defines its key characteristic: isolation. The island has a natural shoreline with no public beaches and only limited points of access from the sea, meaning any approach is controlled long before someone ever sets foot on land. In practice, there was a single main dock used to access the island. From a spatial perspective, that matters. When there is only one point of entry, the movement of people is easy to monitor and control. Alternative approaches by sea are difficult due to the terrain and the island's private status. The island itself is large enough that buildings are not concentrated in one area. Residential and service structures are spread out, separated by elevation changes, vegetation, and natural barriers. This creates a situation where it's impossible to see what's happening in one part of the island from another. From a real estate standpoint, this was not a resort and not a property designed for resale. The layout was not optimized for guests, tourists, or future owners. It was optimized for total control by a single owner, restricted access, large distances between zones, and minimal visibility from the outside. Service buildings and utility areas were positioned to support autonomy, power generation, water supply, storage, and maintenance. The island could function without constant interaction with the outside world, significantly reducing outside presence. At this point, it's important to note one simple fact. Even before any stories or documents emerged, the physical structure of the island already made it a closed and opaque environment. This was not a result of later events. It was the starting condition. After Jeffrey Epstein's death in 2019, Little St. James did not become freely accessible and was not immediately placed on the market. The island became part of a complex estate, managed by a trust created to handle numerous legal claims and financial obligations. During this period, access to the property was extremely restricted. Any activity on the island could be interpreted as interference with potential evidence, so management was reduced to the minimum: security, basic maintenance, and a complete absence of outside individuals. At the same time, both civil and criminal proceedings were ongoing, during which the island was no longer treated as ordinary real estate, but as part of a broader legal context. That fundamentally changed its status. The property could not be freely sold, renovated, or repurposed until its role in the case was fully established. For a period of time, the island effectively stopped being a place meant for living or use, and instead became a repository of information. It was within this context that the materials which raised the most questions began to emerge. When some of the images were released, attention was drawn not to aerial views or exterior facades, but to the interior spaces captured in the photographs. Among those images is a room containing a chair that does not resemble ordinary household furniture, but instead appears specialized, similar to a medical or procedural chair. Nearby, there are pieces of equipment associated with examination or service functions. Toward the back of the room, there is a table that could be interpreted as a massage table. Particular attention is drawn to the walls, where masks of unclear purpose are mounted without any explanation or labeling. Another space appears next, a room designed as a library. Expensive furniture, premium chairs, and books displayed behind glass create the impression of a high-status interior. At the same time, there is an element in the frame that does not fit that setting: a board covered with writing. Among the words that can be made out are power, manipulation, conspiracy, and political truth. Who wrote them when they were written, and for what purpose remains unknown. There are no official explanations regarding the origin of these inscriptions. A phone configured with speed dial contacts is shown separately. The list includes office labels, work numbers, and the names of several individuals without additional context. The existence of these contacts is documented, but their roles or the nature of the connections are not explained. It is only known that the device is associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Among the other materials are photographs of bedroom spaces. They appear almost impersonal. White dominates the interiors, personal items are absent, and everything is meticulously arranged. The overall impression is one of sterility, closer to a hotel or medical environment than a private home. The same feeling is conveyed by the bathroom. 2 sinks, decorative furniture, neatly folded towels, and no visible signs of everyday use. There are also images of a room that can be interpreted as a sauna or steam room. Tile surfaces, built-in seating areas, and large amounts of textiles, towels, cushions, baskets, are visible. The exact function of this space was never officially described. In the public sphere, these images began to be viewed in the context of allegations previously made against Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, which further intensified the uneasy response to what was seen. After that, the exterior of the main building is shown. It is a large, expensive property that reflects the owner's financial resources. Alongside this image appears another, of a deteriorating structure marked with a warning sign indicating restricted access and private property. Under normal circumstances, such a sign would draw little attention, but within the broader context, it takes on additional significance. In the end, all of these materials, photographs, videos, documents, do not provide a complete answer to what exactly took place on Little St. James. They are not a reconstruction of events, and they do not replace judicial conclusions. What they do instead is show the environment in which all of this existed. As of now, only one thing can be said with certainty. This island is no longer private property in the traditional sense, and it is no longer just a piece of real estate. It has become a fixed location within a much larger story, where every detail is viewed not on its own, but in relation to what is associated with it. And that is how it will remain, as a place that can no longer be separated from the public memory,